This is Senate Appropriations, and we're continuing our work on the 2025 budget, and we are now getting to the home stretch. And we are going to go back through the base, and then we're also, after we do this, then we're going to have the language that relates to the fees and setting of the fees. So once again, this is draft, please note. And so Emily, do you want to walk us through this? Sure. Some we've really closed out, so I don't know if I don't think we need to keep going back over. Let's just pick up where we need to sort of finalize and how we get to a balanced budget. So I think what we're going to try to do here is show what we have proposed, and then how to bring ourselves in balance. And then we can have discussion around how we do that or where we make those adjustments. But at least this is a good document to kind of frame that discussion and the decisions that we still have to make. So let's start, I guess, with the base changes here.
Yep. So for the record, Emily Byrne from the Joint Fiscal Office. So we walked through a sheet very similar to this about a week ago, I think. And so at the very top, these are sort of base changes that were in GovRec that the House agreed with, that I understand that the Senate will agree with. And then so you'll see two Senate columns. The sort of very end of the colored headings is the sort of Senate draft that we walked through about a week ago. And then the Senate proposal is the gray columns are sort of how we get to zero when all is said and done. So I'll skip through the base changes that the House has agreed to and go down to the blue box, which is the base changes that the House or the Senate did not agree to. So the first one, the yellow highlights are the ones that sort of where we have found places to bring this into balance. So I'll start with the first one that's highlighted in yellow, if you want me to, or
Yeah.
Senator Kitchell. So the
and maybe I should talk about that, because that was something that we expressed concerns about, but I'm going back to the work we did right here when we had Stephanie Barrett, and that was how we set the funding and the estimates that we used in determining program costs as they rolled out. And so after looking at this, conversations with Joint Fiscal, conversations with former staff person, feel that at this point it is comfortable doing this adjustment. Now, accompanied with this is the change in the language. People were worried that, but this, once again, this is if in fact more money is needed, then it would be on the general fund side. And there's language that was in statute that we're removing, and that was the language to the extent funds are available, and made it very clear that those benefits flow, and that clause that conditions eligibility that's been removed, or conditioning the continuation. So this is going back, reassessing, and we feel that after a lot of deliberation that this is obviously much less than the governor was proposing, but we think is comfortable to do at this time. All right, we'll keep going then.
Okay, so in line 18 and 19, so the House had originally moved half of the money that was set aside for 18 mental health specialists and regional emergency management coordinators that were going to be part of the Department of Public Safety, a contract with designated agencies. The House had moved half of the funding for those positions to the Department of Mental Health to do general crisis work. That decision, the conversation in the Senate was to move that money all back to DPS to
support the embedded workers.
Yeah. And then, Senator, do you want to talk about what we're doing in 18, or do you want I can touch on? Sort of bring the budget into balance. We had looked at reducing the number of positions new positions that will be funded by 2. So that will bring the total number of mental health specialists, regional management coordinators at the Department of Public Safety to 18 instead of 20. So there was 12
Just felt that
days.
in this budget, we couldn't do the full 8, and this was how, we felt was very significant. And once again, this is back to something this committee did originally. Senator Sears, spoke to this, and that is the embedded workers really function as a really an extent, sort of a staff extension of a very, slim, state police force, and they are, very much embraced and valued, which is, good. So, that's what we ended up doing as, now, you can say, I don't wanna go there or whatever, but then we'd have to find it somewhere else. So this is just not, increasing the position.
18, no.
No, eight, line 8.
Yeah, so this goes to 6.
It was, they were requesting 8, and we were saying we can do 6.
And there's 12 that are in the base. So
So that's
total
where-
to 8.
Rainbow's like 18, right?
Yeah.
Instead of 20.
So that's, now we're down. And this is where we're still trying to kind of figure this out, down at the bottom here. What we have.
Yep, so on line 27, the House had taken the money out for the community coalitions that was recommended by the governor to be funded with the money for the cannabis funds that were supposed to be dedicated to recovery. So this is having the Senate restore the governor's recommend that.
I just want to clarify. This is the money that comes from the excise tax from the sale of cannabis. And and that is for prevention. That's what it's, prevention, not the recovery. So, these community coalitions are one of the evidence-based, activities, that are viewed, have a demonstrated success or impact on prevention. So what we are doing is, is restoring the base, to support, the community coalitions at the full 3 million. The House had taken out money, and replaced it with one time, and we were saying, and that if we're going to, respect kind of the decision and the legislative history, we wanted to make sure that 3 million in base, was preserved. So we're going back to the governor's recommend, and that's what you're seeing here.
Yep, and it should not on line 29, as we talked about with the contingency piece, it just should say recovery centers, and that in contingency should come off of that.
Yeah.
And then you'll see below that, but that the House in its budget had included an allocation of money that was included in last year's base budget, that was split between post-adoption services and spectrum youth services in the House budget that's in DCF space that was allocated to as a increase for adoption providers, but because of federal regulations, it couldn't be dedicated to that. So the House reallocated those funds that are in the base accordingly. This reflects a change to reduce the funds that are specifically allocated to spectrum youth services and reallocating it as a 3% increase to the recovery centers, and then it'll be $125,000.
Well, that's what we were trying to confirm,
We're trying to work
centers
on that.
versus,
Yes.
residents. And then what we did, was, then do a 3% to youth services, which would, of which spectrum would be 1, and that would be, 25,000 per youth, services agency.
Yep.
And then there would be the 3%.
Yep.
And then the other, part would go to homeless, programs for youth. The administration wanted to not specify which particular, program would get the, money. But, that's how we have, divvied up that money that was freed up simply because it couldn't be used. So, it's to support recovery, it's to give, grants to all 5, youth services programs, and to use the balance for youth homeless programs. So we're now
onto the back side.
onto the backside.
So the other bills section, so this reflects base money that's currently trapped, that's in other bills that will show up in the budget. Or are in those bills currently. So the first one is H622 related to emergency medical services that I believe passed Senate Health and Welfare.
And that's the 31,000.
This is the 31,000. The Active 50 funds that the House had in 687, those will travel in 687. The Medicaid expansion, the language was presented, and there's a one-time appropriation to support that initial, to getting that started. That would be in H83, which is the big bill.
And that is the Medicare savings.
Yeah. Sorry, clear?
Yes, the Medicare.
Savings. Investments in housing will be in H687, and then the access to justice. There's down below, there's the investments that are being made in the judicial system. Additionally, in S204, there was $150,000 appropriated for a literacy position. It's the fund, I think it was funded to the extent funds are available, so that sets aside the funding for that position. S213 included investments in the flood river management programs and with the addition of positions that Amy went through earlier. So this is 1.75 to support the work in S213. And then S2, that's 310. There is funding in this bill to support the establishment of 2 emergency management positions.
In addition to the one the governor proposed.
Yes. So then below, and the additional new base requests that the Senate has heard from. So we had gotten an ask from the Agency of Administration related to paying for the costs of the green books, which are the law books.
And we told them to eat it.
Yeah. We tried to find the money for
I
it.
said it much more.
Oh, we did. I'm sorry. We're sorry, we ran out of money.
Please eat
What?
it. Please eat it.
Yes. I can quickly go through some of these other ones. Vermont Access Network, that was the base
Yeah.
appropriation.
And then we've got the language about the operating budget.
Yeah.
Goes with it.
Legislative staff, so this is currently in the JLMC process, but this adds $50,000 to the Joint Fiscal Office and to the Office of Legislative Counsel to support the creation of 2 new positions. AAFM, Agriculture, the Conservation District, so this is the 112
They got the level
base
funded.
restoration that we've talked about. The next line, 3% increase for community-based providers, $8.5 million. This is the general fund share of increases for DAs, SSAs.
Enhanced res care.
This enhanced res care, et cetera. And then we've got a 3% increase for parent-child centers. The DEBA non-emergency Medicaid transport costs, this is the $560,000 also included in the Budget Adjustment Act. We provide base funding for those services. Vermont State Colleges, they're originally going to request for an additional $3 million to help with deficit mitigation. That be brought down. That much.
Madam Chair.
Yeah.
Where would is there language coming about the deficit? Where will we?
I guess could make it, I could make it clear if you want to, in statute though.
It was in the original.
I know it was, I know, but is it in statute? Do we need to amend anything?
I believe it is.
Okay.
I don't know what year that would be, but it lays out the schedule for the.
Yeah, I have it right here somewhere.
Yeah, I got
Um,
And so this is supposed to be paired with reductions in the next 2 installments, the 2 main installments.
But you want to lower
Yes,
their amount by this.
from 5 million and 5 million to 3.5. They're target.
Since it's a target thing, but you think it's statute?
I thought it was, I mean,
This thing,
Maybe in section law.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for.
if
if it's in session law, I think it would be still good to have a temp piece that makes it clear that,
The purpose is to reduce,
yeah,
the,
and to lay out the two remaining installments, because they're using those not only to guide their budgetary work, but also in the messaging that they're doing to
So-
act.
next year, the one-time transformation, we've made them whole for the full 10 this year.
Yeah,
So it's 5 for next year, and that's for transformation. And then this year, in 25, in 24, it was 48 in the base. And because we were moving up the base, and then 25, there was nothing more for the base, so you wanted to use it for. It doesn't matter, it's all fungible. So we can add some language that this money is to reduce the.
targeted
The targeted a structural deficit in the transformation plan or something.
by 3 million over the remaining 2 installments. Or-
We can try, well, yeah,
Okay,
I'll add language.
great,
We'll dig around for the section law,
great,
Fine.
thank you.
or the statute of it. Or,
Sorry, I didn't know you wanted, oh,
Because otherwise, I think,
I'll get lost.
and they'll just assume that it's the refer.
But obviously, we're getting close in terms of
Yeah,
one more year, of the one-time bridge funding.
yeah,
So. And hopefully it's accomplishing, although I said yesterday, it was pretty impressive. The nursing program now is up to 1,000
Yeah.
students, so that's,
and their enrollment numbers are looking
yeah,
good.
looking good. I think, I wanted to say, where are the dental therapy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hate when you get into
yeah,
it.
All right, should we put that into the language? And where's the dental therapy program? Oh. All right, we'll add some language on that, and we'll do that, this is,
do you want me to go to server and learn?
yeah, well, I think we've talked about that program, it's just, they wanted 2.3. It's been pretty much one-time money, except for a small amount that had been with Forest and Parks for youth conservation corps, so this is, moving at least some support on an ongoing basis, and then, the balance is on the one-time list.
Yeah.
Refugee housing, that is, an annual payment, we did it in the BAA, this is the, I believe that in Brattleboro, they've actually converted a dorm into housing for refugees, and there's another program in the northern part of the state, and so we knew when we did the BAA that was just to get us through the end of the fiscal year, and this is the 25 costs of that housing. Judicial investments, that's what we ended up with net, after, I had to give Senator Steer's proposal a haircut, but hopefully, this is the amount just adjusted for what we had to do with the,
Yep.
paying.
You're subtracting the 5.4 for the 2 new judges, right?
Correct.
That's it, yeah.
And there's administrative staff with those 2 judges, by the way.
Oh, we've got all your administrative staff so that's, and the other, it's.
Yeah,
there.
but I think that 5.4 is more than just the 2 judges. I'm fairly sure there's one other staff member in there in that proposal from the judiciary.
Well,
or
we
the
need to
governor.
double check whether that makes a difference on the positions that need to be created, so. thank
Yeah, I
you.
just checked that
Okay, we'll double check that.
because that would be a very high salary for those 2 judges.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
even
right.
With benefits.
All right, we'll double check on that. And, the last area, And that was the Office of Healthcare Advocate, legal services, and that was a request, to, not level fund that office. So, now we're down to the bottom line here, Emily.
Yeah. So on the total base appropriation, so total base increases. 33.35 million. So then how do we pay for that? So on line 57, you have base appropriations and transfers. You'll note that there's a reduction from the House base appropriations and transfers of 1.05 million. That's a reflection of an updated calculation of the Pay Act appropriation. So we reran those numbers in consultation with the administration, and we shaved $1 million off that appropriation. So then the base revenue stays the same, and then in line 60, we have the additional revenue. In the Senate, the original Senate column, we had 20.10, so that's a combination of both the $6 million from the streaming tax and 18.8 less the 4.7 that's on the one-time sheet. 18.8 million in securities fees. We have Chris will walk through sort of the details on that in terms of what we did to close the budget, need to increase the amount that's raised by about $600,000, and that required 2 changes in the fee structure as was passed by Senate Finance. So those numbers have been updated slightly. We'll walk through those after. So after all of those changes, that gets us to the bottom line with $50,000 left. Which again, pretty good, 2 billion.
2 billion. Oh, well, we've got a lot to negotiate for the House, haven't we?
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess,
Are you needing 50,000 for them to use?
well, we might need it
So
to.
leaving 50,000 for Emily.
And
Just in case.
For you, we'll do it. All right, so that gets us in balance by making those adjustments, obviously. Where we're hoping to do more with on the state colleges and then, as I said, Senator Sears, we gave him a little haircut too, so to get us into balance. And then we did obviously have to modify a bit what we could do to support still a very substantial investment in flood mitigation with S213.
Okay.
So unless people feel that this is not.
I think it was great. Yeah.
But we still have a bit more language,
Couple three pieces.
a couple more pieces. So I think at this point I'll have Chris come and we'll do what we have to make for changes. Since the fees are already pulled out and are going to be put in here, we'll just simply make very small adjustment of $25 on a fee. To give us the money that we need to come in balance here.
That's what that's accounted for. That's why we're inbound. We're
Yeah.
already
Yeah,
accounted.
we've already assumed that we're going to agree to this.
Yeah.
If you don't, we're gonna have to go back and reduce something that.
as long as you get, what, 4 vouchers.
Good afternoon, everyone. For the record, Chris Roop, Joint Fiscal. As the chair mentioned, when you all considered H 546, the miscellaneous tax bill the other day, you amended out some adjustments to financial regulation and securities fees that the Senate Committee on Finance had in its version of the bill. The chart that was just passed around and Hannah's going to post compares the Senate finance fees with the version that raises another $600,000 in order to bring everything into balance. And you'll see highlighted in yellow that you can raise that 600,000 by adding 25 additional dollars to the mutual fund notification and renewal fees. Again, those are on a relatively large base of mutual funds that are registered for sale in Vermont. They aren't assessed on individuals. But bringing those increases from 250 and 350 to 275 and 375 yields a significant amount of additional money, about 600,000. We also were in some conversations with DFR on the mechanics of transacting some of these and some of the timing implications. And some of their feedback caused us to revise downward the insurance appointment fee on the top line. So to make up that slight reduction due to timing reasons for implementing the increase, adding another $5 onto the broker dealer agent fees on the bottom line to bring that from 120 to 145. The cumulative impact of all of those moving pieces gets you 600,000 additional revenue.
Which if we agree with this, we need. And those changes.
Say that. I don't want that to be a thing.
So we did the fees the other day, we pulled them out, just like we did with the DMV fees. We're gonna, with these very modest adjustments, they'll travel in the budget. Well, any questions? Yes. All right, thank you very much for that. Now I guess we're back to language. Are you still checking on the judiciary?
Yeah.
Did you get the answer?
I reached out to add questions.
Well, where'd he go to? He probably went home on a Friday afternoon.
He's probably listening. He said he would be.
Where's your dog, Dick?
We
You're
want
muted.
more of the puppy.
You're out. Both dogs are out with Murph.
Oh,
Doing
that
yard
puppy
work.
is beautiful. Oh my God.
Isn't he?
Uh-huh. Is it he or she? I don't know. Is it?
But
It's a he. It's a he. It's Marley's great nephew.
Oh.
wow.
Well, wait. So I'm gonna suggest we go off live. Because I don't know how long we're gonna be before we get additional language.
Text agreed.